Greetings wherever you are. If it's your first time to be here, my name is Joseph Munyampara. I'm a host of Pastor JoJo podcast. Before I welcome our guest today, I just want to tell you a little bit about my story growing up. See, growing up, I used to see my father going out for work, and sometimes he would take days or weeks moving from one province to the other, working so he can provide for us. I also saw my mom trying to sell in the local market, especially the dry silverfish, the small one, the sardines. He would go across the border to Tanzania or to Burundi, and that came with risks because sometimes they would wake up in the middle of the night to go catch the bus. Or my mother would arrive in Kigali at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. There is no bus working. There are few motorbikes working, and we don't know what could happen in the darkness. But doing all of these, they were doing it to provide for us, because there is a time I remember in my father's household, there were 24 people. My uncles, my aunties, my cousins, all of them, they have to eat, they have to go to school, they have to put on clothes, all these things. So they were working hard. We didn't know that our parents were preaching to us and teaching and showing us what is right to do and what true love is. It is sacrificial. And for parents who have children, providing is not optional. It is a must. They should provide, but it comes with a cost. Today, our guest is also another proof of all of these that we talked about, even more. And I want to welcome him on this show. Welcome to Pastor JoJo podcast.
Thank you so much.
Can you please take this time and introduce yourself, tell people who you are, and a little bit on your background?
So my name is Saater Igyuse. I was born in the rural part of Nigeria. And my story is kind of related so much to what you just shared in your introduction. I was born in a very rural area. And when I say rural, a lot of people growing up in some developed parts of the world may think of rural in a different way from what I consider rural. So in our rural community, we didn't have anything like water. We got water from streams. Right, there was nothing like electricity. We used lanterns. So that is the kind of environment I grew up from in Nigeria. I am the last in a family of 9. By the time I was born, my parents had retired from service. So it was a really challenging time, right? Like growing up, you have to feed, and it's kind of very difficult to get food. So my parents were farmers, so basically they grew certain kinds of crops. And in Nigeria, it was mainly things like yam and peanuts. So because my parents farmed those things, those were kind of our staple food. So you kind of eat yam morning, afternoon, night, Monday to Friday, to Monday to Sunday. Most times your food revolves around yam. So it's either you boil yam or you fry yam or you roast yam. Or you pound yam. So it was all around yam kind of diet. So that was the kind of environment I grew up. And because we're in a rural area, we saw there was nothing like healthcare facility as well. So you see a lot of young children falling ill, and there's really nothing. Parents are trying to use traditional methods to get their children well, and it often didn't lead to good outcomes. So it was in those kind of environment that I felt, when I grow up, I want to be a doctor, and that could help solve this kind of problem. That was my thinking at that time, that, if I become a doctor, I could help this kind of children that are dying from this kind of preventable illnesses. In that kind of environment where I grew up, it was impossible for me to be what I wanted to be. First of all, my parents could not afford to train me to university to study medicine because, like I said, we were from a very poor background. I went to a government school right in the village there, and government schools, the teaching in government schools in Nigeria is not so good. Sometimes, in most cases, they even teach you in your native language. So I couldn't even speak English to start with because I grew up in my village. We spoke the Tiv language. I went to school. I was taught in Tiv language. So I couldn't even communicate in English growing up. But I had a dream of becoming a doctor, but a doctor that cannot even speak English. Jumping forward. So what happened was kind of like a miracle, right? So like I said, being the last, I had a lot of elderly people that were older than me. So my elder sister was working in Lagos. I think she saw the potential in me. So when I was 12, she was like, "Oh, I want to take you from the village to Lagos." So that was how I moved from my village to stay with my sister in Lagos. I got to Lagos and I was enrolled in school, but I couldn't speak English. But Lagos is a cosmopolitan city, so it is English that is spoken there because we have people from all over the tribes in Lagos. So nobody's going to teach you in your native language. So I got to school and I couldn't communicate with people, but I had to learn. So luckily I had a couple of friends that so they understood my difficulty and they were there for me. And gradually I began to pick up and learn how to communicate. Now, when I went to Pacific Comprehensive College in Lagos, where I started, my first year in that school, I think my position was either the last or second to the last. That was how bad it was.
Wow.
But when you...
Sorry for laughing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I was either the last in class or I was second to the last in class.
Yeah.
But by the time I was graduating, I was the first in class. Wow. So it was kind of like moving from the last to the first. So it was a whole complete transformation, right? But that didn't come easy. It had to take a lot of hard work, right? Like you have to really study to be able to go ahead of people that you met in that city, in that school, who were obviously better than you as at the time you came. One remarkable thing happened. So basically, like secondary schools are 6 years in Nigeria. Primary schools are 6 years. So by the time I was in the 5th year, principal of the school was like, I would take the best 5 students in the 5th year and allow them to write the final year exam in the 6th year. So 5 of us were taken in 5th year to join the 6th year students to write the final year exam. And by God's grace, I passed. So I ended up doing 5 years in secondary school instead of 6 years. Wow. That just taught me that no matter where you come from, if you are dedicated to that calling and you have God by your side, you will always achieve. Finishing from secondary school, I had to then move to the university to study medicine, which was what I always wanted to study. I wrote the university's matriculation exams and I got accepted into Igbinedian University to study medicine. So that was when the real journey of becoming a doctor then began. Now, medical school was very challenging, very, very challenging. You spend the first 3 years doing the basic medical courses. And at the end of those 3 years, there is an exam, they call the MBBS 1 exam. Now, if you don't pass that exam, you are dropped out of medicine. So the 3 years you studied into medicine will become a waste. So it's either you drop out of medicine and pick up biochemistry or anatomy or physiology, then you do 1 or 2 more years, then you graduate with those degrees. If you pass the MBBS 1, then you move to the clinical class to continue your journey as to become a doctor. So something happened, I think in my year 1 or year 2, there was no phone communication as at that time in Nigeria widely. So most of us didn't have any way of communicating. When we wrote one of the exams before the MBBS, because the MBBS was the main exams, but you write several exams which serve as continuous assessment before that MBBS 1. So when I wrote one of the exams, I didn't have the result and the school had closed. So I left the school and went home. Now, the thing was that if you failed any course in those exams, you have to rewrite it before school resumes so that you can continue. I had not seen my results. I went home, nobody to communicate with me. And that was a very big risk anyway. But by the time I had resumed, I saw that, I had passed all these courses. And it dawned on me that, what if you didn't pass? You didn't have the opportunity to rewrite those courses. So you would have definitely had to leave medicine. That was one of the things that struck me even at that early stage. And that was actually the hand of God. Actually, I saw so many hands of God in my medical, not the practice, the training to become a doctor. When I was in the final year, something happened again. So in final year, you write 4 exams: medicine, surgery, obstetrics and gynecology, pediatrics. Okay, you write 5, and community medicine. Now, out of these 5, community medicine is the easiest, or supposed to be the easiest out of them. Now, when we were writing community medicine, the professor that was teaching us community medicine said, you have to pay me for me to pass you in this course. And of course, everybody knew us on campus as a Christian because we were leading fellowships and stuff like that. So people were kind of trying to see what our response will be. So about 16 of us in the class, we said we're not going to pay the lecturer. We're just going to study and pray and do our exams. So we refused to pay. We wrote the 5 exams. Now, when the result came out, I had passed the 4 major aspects of the exam: the medicine, surgery, pediatrics, and obstetrics and gynecology, which were the most difficult part. And I had failed community medicine simply because I refused to pay this professor to pass me. Now, that was a very challenging time, because shortly after that exam, the accreditation of medicine for that university was withdrawn. So it was like we have come to an end because there's no longer accreditation. You can't continue to study medicine when there's no accreditation. So the school sent everybody home because there was nothing. So I went home, no accreditation. Those people that had paid the professor had become doctors, obviously, because that was a final exam. Those of us that refused to pay were at home, not knowing what the future was going to be. That was really challenging. And sometimes I would sit and, should I have paid this professor and just passed? Well, just maybe I should have. But in all of those thoughts, I still felt I made the right decision. So about after a year of staying at home, the school got back the accreditation for medicine. They called us back, come back and rewrite this course that you failed. Now, money was an issue. So the exam so we went back to school. We did revision for those, for that particular course and other courses for people that failed those courses. When it was time for exam, so after those revisions, I went back home and the school had scheduled a time for exam. Now, without you paying the school fees, you would not be allowed to write those exams. So the day of the exam came and I was at home because I had not paid. So there was really no need being in school, because even if I was in school, they would not allow me to write the exam. So I was at home. My first opportunity of becoming a doctor had already passed. Now I was getting a second opportunity, but lack of school fees was going to deny this again. So I'll have to look for a third opportunity. So coincidentally, on the day of that exam, my friends in school just called that, the exams were postponed and they didn't go ahead. So I was like, oh God, this must be me. You did this for me, right? Because I couldn't pay. If the exam had gone ahead, it would have gone ahead without me.
Yeah.
But miraculously, the exam was postponed. I said, okay, that was good. So subsequently, I was able to pay the school fees and get to write the exam at the new time that it was postponed to. And to the glory of God, I passed. And that was how the journey of becoming a doctor was gradually being realized.
Maybe before you continue,
So
from the journey of a young boy in the village in a very poor family, seeing yourself graduating regardless of all those challenges that happened along the way,
Yeah.
what came into your mind?
I knew all along, I knew that God was on my side. My parents were Christians, and I was lucky that they trained me in the Christian way. At very early age in life, they taught me how to stick to the Christian principles, and no matter what, like I remember my mom telling me that if you stick to the principles of God, God will always be by your side. So that kind of helped me a lot, because most times when I face those challenges, I remember those words that, okay, if I'm faithful to God, God will be faithful to me. That was the driving force behind all of this. I knew that with God, I could always do what I wanted to do, not by my strength, but with God by my side. Yeah.
When you're a boy in the village,
Yeah.
there is a picture you have of who a doctor is.
Yeah.
And what you're going to do. And when you're a little child, you're probably thinking of being like a Superman, healing people in 1 second. But after graduating, now you became a doctor.
Yeah.
What was your experience?
So when I graduated as a doctor, I was waiting for a place to do my housemanship. So I started working in a private hospital in Makurdi, a town in Nigeria. So I was working in a private hospital in Makurdi, and obviously I didn't have money. I had just graduated out of medical school. They were not paying me anything significant in that hospital. I was just building up experience. So one of those days, a lady came in and she wanted to do an abortion. And I was like, oh, it's our policy here that we don't do abortions in this clinic. And she was like, oh, I can pay you whatever you want. And that was kind of like tempting, right? Because you don't have money, but somebody is here offering you whatever you want for you to do an abortion for her. And I was like, no, I will not do it. So that again was like sticking to your principle, even in the face of challenging times. That passed, and getting a place into housemanship was also a miracle. As at that time, probably the best hospital in Nigeria would have been National Hospital in Abuja, the capital. Now, I really wanted to do housemanship in National Hospital in Abuja, but it was very competitive because it was probably the best hospital. They were paying probably the best amount for new doctors. The private hospital I was working in Makurdi, where the abortion experience happened, the owner of that hospital was the number 2 in Federal Medical Center in Makurdi, another place that people did housemanship. So I spoke with him, and he was like, oh, just submit your application. I am the number 2. You will definitely get a place in Federal Medical Center. So I submitted my application to FMC Makurdi, and I was very sure I was going to get a place there because the number 2 of the hospital, his private hospital, was where I was working. So we're seeing very frequently. And that was where I thought I was going to get. The National Hospital, where I really wanted, actually, I didn't want to put in an application there because there was a lot of competition. And so my sister-in-law was like, there's no harm in trying. Just put in an application there. You might just succeed. So I submitted another application to National Hospital. So I was expecting either here or there. Now, coincidentally, the Federal Medical Center, where I knew somebody, where I was working with the number 2, they ended up not taking me. Now, the National Hospital, where I didn't know anybody, I counted myself out, was a place I was accepted for housemanship.
Oh, wow.
And that was, again, like, oh, God, this can only be you. Like, you can't trust in man. I had trusted in man because I thought, oh, this is a person I work with. We see almost every day. He has given me an assurance. So it's going to be this place. But it was never. The place I considered out of reach was a place that God made possible.
Yeah.
So I did my housemanship there and I finished. Then I got another place. So after that, you needed to do the National Youth Service. So the National Youth Service was another thing. So God just had this way of blessing me, right? So sometimes I felt maybe because of the sacrifice that I made in that final year, that I refused to pay that professor and I had to lose more than a year, that God was kind of like compensating me, sort of. So after my housemanship at National Hospital, I got a place at State House Clinic, the presidential villa. So it was a clinic in the presidential villa that took care of the president's family and those people that worked in the presidential villa. So I got a place there and I did my housemanship there and I finished. All these were just like, this can only be God. This can only be God. Looking at the little boy in the village just a couple of years ago to where this person is right now, it is just what God alone could do. So
Amen.
That was how that dream got realized.
So now the small boy from the village is a doctor. The dream is realized. It's time to have fun. Tell us the fun that you had after graduating and after your workmanship.
Yeah,
That's what you call
housemanship.
it? Housemanship in all those hospitals.
It wasn't fun. It wasn't fun because in Nigeria, we have very few doctors and the population is huge. So Nigeria is over 200 million people and the doctors are very few. You go to the clinic and you have so many people waiting for you that you have to see, and you have to see all of them. You know, here, I noticed that GPs here we schedule, I'm seeing only 15 people in a day and that is it. In Nigeria, it's not like that. You go, the number of people you see waiting in clinic or the GOPD are the number of people that you are going to see. It was very overwhelming. So there were days that we had to take weekend calls. Weekend calls were what everybody dreaded. Now, you go to work on Friday normally, you close by 4. Now, you come back to the clinic, to the hospital by 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock and start your call. Now, that call takes you into Saturday and into Sunday and into Monday. So the call will finish by Monday, 6 a.m. Then by 9 a.m. on Monday, you are resuming your work normally. So between Friday and Monday, so it was a call that nobody wanted, but we had these weekend calls here and there. So it was actually very challenging. And at a point, I began to see that what is actually the way out of clinical practice. Like, people fall ill, but if people don't fall sick, they will not be in the hospital. So how can we prevent people from being ill? Or how can we treat people from their sicknesses away from hospital? So I started an organization after in the course of the practice, and which was called First Care. Now, the idea was that nurses would go to people's homes and treat them. And so we applied for the Tony Elumelu entrepreneurship funding and we were approved. So we got $5,000 from Tony Elumelu, which was a big deal as at that time. We're operating this First Care on the basis of treating people wherever they need care, whether in their houses or in their office or wherever you need care. Somebody will go there and treat you rather than you coming to the hospital. In the course of that, I applied for the Commonwealth Share Scholarship. So that took me away from clinical practice into academics. So I went to the UK and I did a master's in leadership for sustainable development. While I was doing that, I focused on healthcare sustainability, how we can design and practice healthcare in a way that is more sustainable, preventing people from falling ill rather than waiting for them to fall ill and then treat them. I did that, and at the end of the Commonwealth Scholarship, you are required to go back to your country. It is compulsory. When I completed my master's in Queen's University of Belfast, I had to go back to Nigeria and continue to work in Nigeria. But as at then, I was already building interest in preventive medicine rather than clinical practice. So what I studied under the Commonwealth Scholarship in the UK was more like an introduction to what I really wanted. So I then thought, okay, I should have a master's in public health, which would then delve deeper into what I really wanted to do. So I went back to the UK to do a master's in public health. Took me deeper on the strategies on how to prevent people from being ill rather than waiting for them to get ill and treat them. So that was what took me to the UK. And after that, I went back to Nigeria again because, again, I had an organization, First Care, and I was already thinking of how women in rural areas could deliver safely, because you look at the problem and you want to solve it. Nigeria is one of the countries with the highest maternal deaths in the world. So like, okay, most of these deaths happen in rural communities. I started thinking along that line, how can we help these women? So I started a non-profit. So First Care was for profit. So I started a non-profit to help these women deliver safely. So what we did was train people within communities and give them basic medical equipment like the digital blood pressure machines where they can check the blood pressures of these pregnant women, because hypertension is one of the main killers of women in pregnancy. So we identified those killers and we tried to see how we could get a solution to each. So these women with blood pressure machines, for instance, could continually check the blood pressures of pregnant women, and if the blood pressure is getting up, they could either refer these people to hospital if they can, or give them strategies of how they could control their blood pressure. Along the line, I started thinking, okay, now I have First Care and I have Maternify, helping women. Why don't I have a business degree? So I then thought about having a master's in business administration. So having studied in Nigeria, which is in Africa, and studied in UK, which was in Europe, I wanted a different continent. So I looked at North America. And so I saw Canada, US, and Mexico. And out of the three, Canada appealed to me. I applied, got admitted to Trinity Western University, and that was how I was able to transition from Nigeria to Canada.
So all this journey, when did you get married in?
Okay.
Did you get married when you're still in medical school in Nigeria, UK, or in Canada?
Okay, so I got married when I had just finished my work at State House Clinic in Abuja. After I had finished housemanship and done national service at State House Clinic, then I got married. That was 2014. Yeah.
So when I'm thinking you're traveling, I'm also trying to think as a family man.
Oh, yeah.
When you travel to go to school, you spend a year, 2 years outside the country.
Yeah.
What's going on in your mind? That time you're in the UK the first time, and then your family's way back home. You go back again, family's way back home. You go to Canada now, and your family's way back home. What's going on in your mind?
Yeah, so those were challenging moments, right? So the first time I went to the UK under the Commonwealth Scholarship, so my son was born on September 6th. I left on September 13th to the UK. So Nathan was barely a week old when I left them and had to go. So as at that time, my wife also had just started working. So we looked at the whole thing. Okay, I'm going to the UK and I'm definitely going to come back because Commonwealth requires you to come back. So I'm going to be away for 1 year. And I was able to get study leave. So they gave me a chance that, okay, after your studies, you can come back and resume your work. She didn't have that. So we looked at all this. Okay, if she followed me into the UK and we come back, I'm going to have a job. She's not going to have a job. So she had just had a baby. It wouldn't be right for her to travel at that stage. So we looked at all that and we decided that, okay, she should stay back in Nigeria. So it was difficult, but I went in September. She came in December with Nathan to visit and went back. Then by September, I was back. So it was just that kind of, quick separation. When I went back the second time, we went together, so it was fine. The whole family went, so there was no separation this second time.
Okay.
Coming to Canada, the idea was that we'll all come together, but sometimes things go outside of your planning, right? So I applied for study visa and their visas, and my visa was approved. So I came and started my studies, and the expectation was that theirs would be approved shortly and they would join me. But it took more than a year before theirs was approved. But there was really nothing we could do about that. If your visa is not approved, you can't come to Canada. So it was difficult. But what happened was, so I kept going back. So within that 1 year, I went back twice. And it was required for me to be there for them. So those journeys kind of cost a lot, but it was a sacrifice that was necessary. So I had to go back 2 times within a year to see them. And luckily, I was actually planning a third visit back to them when they got their visa and then had to come over.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I know growing up in an African household, we were always taught that we have to go out and work as men.
Yeah.
And also, even in the church, for Christian believers, we were taught that men are providers, are protectors. And every time we saw a father going out, like I shared my story, a father going out for weeks or months,
Yeah.
that's the sacrifices they were making. But I also want to recognize that men also have a heart for their families. They miss their children. They miss their wives at home that they leave for a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. How did being away from your family affect you spiritually, emotionally, or even in your profession?
It was difficult, right? It was difficult. So, first of all, leaving Nigeria 6 or 7 days after my son was born was very difficult. Very, very difficult. I remember the day I was to leave. My wife was literally crying and tears. So when I looked at her, I was like, do I really have to go? Do I really have to go? But she was like, just go. I'll be fine. But it was really difficult, right? You see your wife crying that you are leaving. Your son is just 1 week old. So I was leaving, but my heart was with them. So I got to the UK. Of course, I had to study, but I kept thinking about them. And that is why I went in September. 3 months after, they came over and they did about 3 to 4 weeks with me, and then had to go back, which was another difficult time again. But by the time they were leaving in December, the consolation was that, okay, by September, I'm coming back and we'll try and avoid this kind of thing happening again. The situation warranted this to happen, but we'll see how this doesn't happen again. And that is why when I was going back to the UK the second time, we went together to prevent such a situation from happening. When I came to Canada, we didn't want it to happen, but that was outside of our control. So there was really nothing we could do. So in all of these, it was actually a difficult situation, but sometimes you have to make those sacrifices for a better tomorrow. And there were things that we sat down and discussed, and we saw that, okay, they're necessary.
Is there a moment where you felt like giving up?
Well, like I said, when not necessarily giving up, but even when I got the Commonwealth Scholarship and I was about to leave and I saw my wife crying, I was like, is this necessary that I go? And she was the one that became a push that go.
Now that you've immigrated twice, what is one lie that many immigrants take as the truth about immigrating?
Okay, so the what you hear even from people that have immigrated, most times they will tell people back home that, oh, this place is very difficult. There's so much cold. There is so much of this, and there are prejudices, and so you hear a lot of all this, and some people get discouraged by them, but Nigerians are very funny people, right? So sometimes when they hear those kind of things, they will tell you, but you are still there. If all those things are like you are saying, come back, they will know that what you are saying is true. So you are in that place, but you are telling us, oh, this place is bad, it's cold, there are prejudices, but you are there.
Yeah.
Why don't you come back? So some people get discouraged by it. Some people don't. Some people say that, okay, in spite of all those things you are saying, people are surviving there, so I can equally survive there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so if the dream that you had was to be a medical doctor,
yeah,
but now here that you're leaving, you've lived in the UK, you've lived in Canada, you've left everything in Nigeria, and you're not practicing right now.
Yeah.
Does it feel like a disappointment? Have you disappointed yourself? Have you accepted the defeat? All the sweat, the money, the time, the sufferings that you've invested. How do you take that? What do you feel?
Okay, so basically, I don't feel disappointed. I feel like I am doing something that is helping people. So the whole idea, like I said from the beginning, was to help rural people, like the place where I grew up, seeing those kind of people and what they were going through. I felt being a doctor was going to be a solution to those kind of situations. Now in non-clinical practice, I'm actually doing that in a better way than I would have done as a clinician.
Yeah.
Because even if I was practicing here or practicing in Nigeria, I would not be practicing in my village. So those people in those communities will still not benefit from my clinical practice. But by setting up organizations that are helping rural women deliver safely, people that would have died in pregnancy, not dying in pregnancy, women that wouldn't have had access to basic vitamins and drugs that they need in pregnancy, having access to those drugs. I feel I'm actually contributing in a bigger way than I would have as a clinician. Of course, I miss clinical practice, right? But it's that kind of thing that when you are inside, the stress makes you want to leave. But when you're outside, you miss it and you want to go back. But so you just have to weigh that. I miss clinical practice, but again, I have a lot of freedom right now. I can do a lot of things. I can research and write my books and do so many things that being in clinical practice kind of hinders you. So there are advantages and there are disadvantages. Depends on which of them you are focusing on.
Talking about books, I have one of your books, the one that you wrote when you're still at university.
Yeah.
It's called Woman Exposed.
Yeah.
I want you to tell us a little bit about this book, but I also want to ask you, what were you thinking about writing this book when you're still single? Exposing women when you're still single. Who was going to marry you?
So I got a lot of those questions when I wrote Woman Exposed. We were like, which experience do you have to write this kind of book? So basically, the title wasn't supposed to be Woman Exposed. Usually, for me, I write a book and then try to find a title that fits that what I have written. So the book was born out of my experience on campus. So because we are part of the leadership of the fellowship, we had a lot of young ladies coming to confide in you and share their stories and stuff like that. And so after hearing a lot of this, I felt, I can actually do something about this. Let me write a book that addresses many of these concerns that these young ladies and young girls have on campus. Many of them revolved around having relationships on campus which were not working, which is primarily the theme of the book. So many of the young girls on campus, they come to the university and they start all this relationship with boys and stuff like that. And after a year or two or less, many of them far less than that, the relationship breaks down and they had invested a lot into the relationship emotionally and financially and all that. And suddenly all of that is gone. So it leaves them broken and they're looking for somebody to talk to. And that was how I was able to talk to many of these young girls. And so I wrote Woman Exposed to address many of those things, how they could build their relationship with God and have a relationship with themselves before thinking of a relationship with another person. So it actually starts with God. You have your relationship with God, then you have a relationship with yourself, then you can have a relationship with another person. Okay,
I encourage all parents to go ahead and buy this book. Give it to your daughters and your sons so they can read what's on the other side. There is also Man Exposed that was written after this one. It will bless you. If you're in high school, you're in college, feel free to go and buy this book. We will ask Dr. Saater to let us know where you can find these books.
So the book is available on many of the online stores, mainly on Amazon. So if you go to Amazon and you type Woman Exposed Saater Igyuse, you see it there. You see other copies of my books there because when they show Woman Exposed, they kind of show other books that I wrote as well together.
Before I let you go, I have one more question, and this is a concern about Christians in Nigeria. Normally, for me growing up, I always thought that Nigeria is a Christian family because many movements, many churches, many evangelists who are popular all over the world were coming from Nigeria. But recently, we've continued to hear lots of killings. For so many years, it's been going on for so many years. Some people think it started this year or last year, but it's something that's been going on for so many years. It just probably got popularized by social media where now information can go by so fast. So when you see that killing of Christian Nigerians in a country that has big number of Christians, but also a big number of persecutors, what would be your message to those Nigerians who are in those parts where kids are kidnapped? I read news this week that 300 kids were kidnapped
Yeah.
from a school.
Yeah.
So when you read these things and you see what's happening, what would be your message? One, to those who are being persecuted, but another message to the world that is watching, including people here in North America.
So the persecution of Christians in Nigeria is really heart-wrenching. It's something that worries me, right? Like, what people here or people watching can actually do is to pray for God's intervention. That is actually the main thing that we need right now, because it looks like a situation where only God can intervene, because the government of Nigeria seems to be in partnership with those that are persecuting Christians. And so when your government is not even on your side, who then do you have? And that is why recently when Trump said he was going to send troops to fight those jihadists, many Nigerians were kind of very happy, like, oh, because usually people kind of resist when a foreign nation is trying to invade their country. But in this case, Nigerians were happy because that looked like the only solution they had. When the Nigerian government wasn't doing anything about it, and people prayed because God was the only option. And suddenly a foreigner is saying, I will do something. So people saw that as an answered prayer. But we are yet to see the effects of that. Praying about it helps. Making a lot of noise about it also helps, because it was because of the recent talk about it on social media and all that it got a lot of attention, that even the US president had to make a statement about it. So the more we continue to talk about it, the more the world will listen to us and find a solution to this. To people that are enduring those persecution, it is very difficult. What can I say, right? It's only just God that can comfort them in those situations. I just want them to trust in God, right? Like there's a young girl called Leah Sharibu that was kidnapped some years ago, and she's still in captivity. They said she had to renounce Christianity for them to release her. She refused. A young girl, and she stood for Christ. And up till now, she's still in captivity. Nobody knows about her now, whether she's still alive or not, but she stood for Christ, which is something those that are being persecuted should look at, right? Like, yes, we are being persecuted, but don't let your faith go. You know, there's something bigger. You might be killed here, you might be persecuted here, but there is a better life that Jesus has for us. So don't let your faith go, in spite of all the persecution and the killings.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I would like to say thank you. Thank you for making time to be with us today. It was an amazing conversation that we've had, and I would love to let you give a closing message to all who are listening and watching right now.
Oh, thank you so much for the opportunity. It was so I'm so glad. It was so pleasant talking with you. My final message will be the message that my mother taught me, which has guided me all along. If you hold on to God, hold on to the Christian principles, no matter what the difficulty is, God will come through for you. It might not be at the time you want it, but God will come through for you.
Amen. God bless you. Thank you for watching. Go ahead and subscribe, like, and share with so many people. This story would touch lives and change many lives. May God bless you. Have a wonderful time.